Good afternoon. At this time, I will call to order the special called meeting of the Kentucky Board of Education, August 25, 2026. The purpose of today's meeting is to consider waiver request 2026-WV-081 submitted by Covington Independent School District. A few reminders as we begin this hybrid meeting. The meeting must comply with the requirements of the Kentucky Open Meetings Act. Therefore, Kentucky Board of Education members participating virtually, glad you're here, must ensure that their video is streaming and that they can be seen throughout the duration of the meeting. You look fine. Please ensure that all discussions are broadcast to the public. We will remind you if you forget to unmute. And for any items that require a vote, there are several today, a roll call vote will be necessary to record the vote of each member. At that time, the virtual member should state his or her name, pause, and then state, I vote yes or I vote no. Please silence or turn off other electronic devices that may cause disruption to your sound feed. Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
And members, as I call the roll, please state your name and then state present. Holly Bloodworth.
Holly Bloodworth, present.
Harold McKinney.
Harold McKinney, present.
Patty Mentor.
Patty Mentor, present.
Felicia Newman.
Felicia Newman, present.
Justin Pate. Julie Pyle.
Julie Pyle, present.
Randy Poe.
Randy Poe, present.
Sharon Porter Robinson.
Sharon Robinson, present.
Steve Trimble.
Steve Trimble, present.
Lou Young.
Lou Young, present.
Trace Brooking.
Trace Brooking, present.
Stephanie Phillips. Secretary Jamie Link. President Aaron Thompson. Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Board members, I'll call your attention to the staff note in your board portal for this item. We will be going item by item according to the board agenda. At this time, I would like to invite our guests who are with us today, Superintendent Flukas from Covington Independent and Board Chair Tom Haggard from Covington Independent. If you'll come on up to the hot seats, lovingly referred to as the hot seats. Board members, guests from Covington, and those in our audience here and online, before we begin our consideration, especially for Board Chair Haggard and Superintendent Flukas, I want to offer a few comments from the perspective of Board Chair. First, I want to be very clear that this board values innovation, so hear that from the start. We have repeatedly demonstrated our support for schools and districts that are willing to rethink traditional approaches and pursue meaningful transformation in ways that better serve today's students. We recognize that the needs of students are changing dramatically, and we believe our schools must have the flexibility to respond creatively and thoughtfully to those needs. We also recognize that Kentucky's General Assembly has made clear through recent legislation related to schools of innovation that it wants to encourage and facilitate innovation in our public schools as well. We respect that direction, and we appreciate the General Assembly's leadership in creating opportunities for districts like Covington to think differently about how schools operate and how students learn. With that in mind, I really want you to hear the emphasis on my part is my desire, speaking as only one board member, of course, is for this board to get to yes. We want to approve thoughtful, well-designed innovation. We want to support districts like Covington and others who will follow that have a compelling vision for transforming the educational outcomes for all students, and we want to work within the framework established by the General Assembly to make innovation possible. But, in all fairness, getting to yes also means that we have a responsibility as the state board to ensure that the requests before us meet the requirements established in law and provide us with a reasonable basis for determining that the proposed changes will, in fact, actually advance student outcomes. That'll be our singular concern. KRS 156.161 provides that the State Board shall approve a request to be identified as a school of innovation if the request demonstrates that the approved waivers attempt to improve student outcomes in a manner that would be difficult or impossible without the approved waiver. And that's an important standard. That's a standard that we'll look at legally and substantively throughout the conversation today. It requires more than simply demonstrating that a district would prefer to operate differently. I'm a retired school superintendent. I wanted to operate differently on lots of things, but it requires us to understand how the proposed waivers are necessary to accomplish a specific innovation or transformation, and ultimately how that innovation is expected to improve outcomes for kiddos in Covington. That does not mean in any way that I oppose innovation. Quite the opposite. I believe our role should be to help districts like yours get to a proposal that we can say yes to, one that presents a clear vision, establishes a coherent connection between the proposed innovations and improved student outcomes, and identifies those specific barriers that prevent you from pursuing that vision under existing requirements, and demonstrates the requested waivers are necessary to overcome those perceived barriers. Innovation should not be about accumulating waivers. This is not spaghetti against the wall. The waivers should be tools in service of a larger educational innovation purpose. So as we enter today's discussion, I hope we can keep two things in mind, sincerely, as we look at each of the items. First, this board's strong commitment to innovation, but also our responsibility to uphold the standards established in Kentucky law. I believe we can honor both. Our goal should not be to say no to innovation. Our goal should be to make sure that when we say yes, we are saying yes to a compelling, coherent, legally sound plan that gives students a better educational experience and gives this board the confidence that the flexibility being requested is necessary to achieve it. With that, I look forward to the discussion and to hearing from the district about how these requests fit in with your larger innovation vision. At this time, I invite KDE Deputy Commissioner and General Counsel Todd Allen to my left to discuss the waiver request.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Good afternoon, board members. So as you recall, during your last regular meeting of the KBE, this waiver request was on the agenda, but it was tabled for a special called meeting, obviously occurring today. Since that period of time, the department has taken the waiver request submitted by Covington and undergone substantive review of that. As Chair Young mentioned, you do have a staff note in your board portal. It is extensive and has been prepared by program experts in the department and reviewed and provides you information that was gathered for your knowledge as you make a decision today. Just a reminder, neither the commissioner nor department staff can make any recommendation to the board to approve or deny any of the waiver requests that have been submitted by Covington. However, we can provide you with information that will be helpful in making that determination to you. I will begin by going through each of the specific waiver request forms that have been submitted by Covington. So number one, request form number one is a request by the district to waive KRS 158070, subsection 1D, 2B, C, and F. Those statutes provide the following. KRS 158.0701D defines school district calendar committee as used throughout KRS 158.070. Subsection 2B requires a calendar committee to seek feedback from stakeholders and recommend calendar options to the local board of education that comply with state laws and regulations and consider community impact. Subsection 2C requires the local board of education to hear the calendar committee's recommendations as well as the superintendent's recommendation prior to adopting a school calendar. And subsection 2F allows a school district starting school no earlier than the Monday closest to August 26th to operate a variable student instructional year, which allows the district to operate less than 170 student attendance days, so long as the district reaches 1,062 hours of instructional time, with no day being longer than 7 instructional hours, absent approval of the Commissioner of Education.
So that's waiver form 1 in your portal, specifically related to the school days.
May I ask, are these a package or?
So I think the way Todd has it planned out is that he'll present all 7, and then the 8th one is the designation. But we will pause when the board's ready to answer questions after each. So this will be waiver form number 1.
The school district seeks this waiver to apply to the following schools or programs within the district: Glen O'Swing Elementary, John G. Carlisle Elementary, Latonia Elementary, 9th District Elementary, 6th District Elementary, James E. Biggs Early Childhood Center, Holmes Middle School, Holmes High School, and any other school or education program operated and/or funded by the district. The district seeks designation as a school of innovation for all of these schools and programs. During substantive review, it was noted that the local board, did not request waiver of KRS 158.070 subsection 4B, which continues to require that the district comply with a student instructional year, that is 1,062 hours over 170 instructional days, and limits instructional time to no more than 7 hours daily. If a waiver of KRS 158.0702F is granted, the variable student instructional year will no longer be available to the district. It is KDE's understanding that the district is currently operating under the variable student instructional year. The waiver request seeks to significantly alter the established shared governance framework for scheduling and instructional time by concentrating the scheduling authority to reside primarily with the district only. Substantive review further noted that there is a concern the proposed waiver could hinder academic achievement, especially for elementary and middle school students. Finally, substantive review noted it is unlikely that this waiver will result in the district realizing improved school or program operations, student academic achievement, or student outcomes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Todd. So there is the review only. You'll see, unlike typical staff notes, we don't have a recommendation from the staff or the commissioner. They are allowed and encouraged to offer a review, which we've received in your staff note and Todd just summarized. So at this point, I would like to open up a discussion on the part of the board regarding request to waive KRS 158.070, sections 1D, 2B, 2C, and 2F. Dr. Poe.
Well, yeah, my question is, are we going to hear from Covington-wide that particular request before?
We can,
go to
you pose
questions,
any
or-
questions to Superintendent Flukas and Board Chair Haggard as you see fit, if you guys are okay with that kind of back and forth.
I think we would welcome that. I would love an opportunity just for some brief remarks, just to provide you some context of even why we are here in the first place.
Okay, is this a good time for that?
If you're okay with that.
Absolutely, I invite
okay.
you to do so, and then Dr. Poe, I'll come back to you for the first round of questions.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So we really do appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. I did want to start just with some brief comments and also just a personal note so you can get some more context. Myself, I'm a product of Covington Independent Public Schools. I proudly identify myself first as a Covington kid, usually when I am meeting folks. And just doing some research, hopefully I'm going to be lucky enough to turn 44 years old this October. And I did some number crunching and figured out that of 40 of those 44 years have been connected to the Covington Independent Public Schools in some form or fashion, either as a little brother watching my brother play football, as a student, as a coach, as an employee, and for the past 6 years as a member of the Covington Board of Education. It really has been the honor of my life to get to represent the community that raised me. So when we're having this policy discussion, it's not abstract for me. I love Covington. I love our public schools, and I believe deeply in what public education can mean in the life of a child because it did it for me. But my story is only one small part of a much larger Covington story. Last year, we celebrated 200 years of public education in our community. In 1825, a group of Covington residents came together around a pretty remarkable idea for that time, that children should have the opportunity to learn regardless of whether their families could afford to pay for it. And 201 years later, I believe our responsibility is simply not to preserve that institution they created, but to keep making good on that promise. And today, access alone is not enough. Covington children deserve access to an exceptional public education. And that requires us to be honest about where we are. Our student outcomes are not where they need to be. And one of the clearest measures of that challenge in front of us is trust. A study we completed a little over 2 years ago found that about 60% of middle and high school students who live within our district boundaries do not choose Covington Independent Public Schools. At the elementary level, that number is about 75%. I don't say that to criticize those families. They're making decisions they believe are in the best interest of their child. It's our responsibility as a school district to regain their trust. I want families to choose Covington not simply because they happen to live in our community, but because they believe our public schools are the very best place for their children. And I just don't believe we're going to get there or regain that trust by doing more of exactly what we have always done. I know that we need to do better for Covington kids and families, and that's why this opportunity matters so much to us. As you are aware, Covington was willing to lead early on Schools of Innovation. While our initial effort did not ultimately move forward, that work mattered to us because it caused us to begin asking bigger and better questions about what a greater flexibility could be possible for our students. This spring, the General Assembly created a School of Innovation pilot and gave Covington a very unique opportunity to build upon the work and think much bigger. In the first year of that pilot, the General Assembly specifically chose Covington. It created a very specific opportunity for our district, gave us a very compressed and specific timeline on which to get you some waiver requests. And we are grateful for the confidence of the General Assembly in that. We understand the significance of being the first participant in this pilot, and we intend to run with that opportunity we have been given. I also want to thank you again for giving us the opportunity to be here today and giving us some breathing room from your previous meeting and getting to have this specially called meeting. I listened very carefully to your previous discussion, and I heard members asking not simply what waivers Covington was seeking, but what we were actually trying to accomplish with them. It's certainly a fair question, and we appreciate the opportunity to answer it here today. But I also think that the timeline here matters. Senate Bill 263 did not become effective until July 15th, and the General Assembly gave us a deadline of August 1st to submit our collection of waivers. Our responsibility, we think, as part of the law in this first phase was to identify and preserve areas of flexibility that we, as a locally elected Board of Education, believe could help us improve student outcomes. We did not believe our responsibility was to pretend that in 17 new days with a brand new superintendent that we could design every future calendar, every compensation model, every attendance strategy. Certainly not before our new superintendent and our community had the opportunity to do that work thoughtfully together. Many of those decisions have not been made yet. And given the process the General Assembly created, we don't believe that they were supposed to be quite yet. The deeper design work will come next. Superintendent Flukas will talk through that with you. But at its core, this is a locally elected school board working with our superintendent and our community, seeking greater flexibility to strengthen our public school system for the children we have been entrusted to serve. I would echo Dr. Young. We are not asking for flexibility because innovation sounds exciting. We are asking because we need better outcomes for Covington kids. I want Covington Independent Public Schools to become the best school district in America. Yes, the best, full stop. And I know that's an enormously ambitious, but when I say the best, I'm not talking about a ranking or an award. I want us to be a destination district for our students, our families, and our educators. But most importantly, I want every child in Covington to know that where they were born will never determine how far they're going to go in life. That's what the best looks like for me. I'm very fortunate to have a partner sitting next to me who believes just as deeply in what is possible for Covington's children. Superintendent Flukas has come to this work with fresh eyes, enormous ambition, and a commitment to listen before prescribing answers. She's going to talk with you about what she has learned, the direction she sees for our district, and how she intends to engage our educators, our students, our families, and our community in shaping what comes next. But I do want you to know as her board chair that she has our board's full, unanimous, and unequivocal support to lead this work. But we also understand that this opportunity comes with a real responsibility. The General Assembly backed this pilot with a significant public investment for Covington, and we are working to bring substantial private philanthropic support alongside that investment with the goal of matching it dollar for dollar. Those resources are not simply something for us to spend. They have been entrusted to us to create better opportunities and better outcomes for our kids. And that same principle applies to the flexibility we are asking you to grant. Before any major innovation is implemented, we expect there to be a clearly defined problem, baseline data, measurable goals, appropriate safeguards, and a process for evaluating whether it is actually working. Where existing structures become barriers to the work our community ultimately designs, we want the flexibility to try something different And then we expect to be held accountable by you and our community for those results. If something works, we're going to build on it. If something shows promise, we're going to refine it. And if the evidence tells us that something is not working, we should be willing to change it or stop doing it. We believe that flexibility does not mean freedom from accountability. We want to be careful stewards of these resources entrusted to us. We will be transparent about what we are doing. We will share what we learn, and ultimately, we expect to be judged on whether this work produces better outcomes for our Covington kids, because that's the only measure that matters. So we are here today ready to live up to the responsibility that comes with this enormous opportunity from the General Assembly and from you. What we're, for 201 years now, the community of Covington has believed in the promise of public education. I'm here with you today because that promise changed my life. And so now I know our responsibility is to make sure that it means just as much for the generations of Covington kids that come behind me. So we have been given this special opportunity to do that, and we're ready to write that next chapter. And I sincerely hope that we'll get to write that together with all of you today.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Chair Haggard. That is super helpful in this process. And it also, at least for me, as speaking as one person, helps me kind of understand the rush to where we are today. And as we kind of unpack this waiver by waiver, request by request, continue to look for that path forward that will give you the time that you need in the design process, unlocking the $2.5 million. Getting to that, yes, is critically important for all of us, but at the same time, hearing you articulate the need for a more thoughtful design phase, a more thoughtful set of metrics and evaluations, and then holding yourselves accountable to your Board of Education and to us goes a long way in supporting this conversation today, I think. All right, so Superintendent Flukas, we'll come back with you, maybe more on the design phase. That may be one of Dr. Poe's questions, but Dr. Poe, I'll turn it over to you for the first round of questions.
Yeah, the first question I have is, on this, without repeating all that, what Dr. Allen talked about, is can you provide examples where you think that the committee was prevented the district from implementing innovation? And because when I was looking at the proposal here, I really think you can do everything without the waiver yourself already. So what is it that you specifically need the waiver for? Because I think you can accomplish that without the board's waiver.
And I agree with Dr. Poe, and let me just piggyback on that. One of these that's a bit of a hiccup for us as we've had individual conversations is school's already started for 26-27, and you have a school calendar for 26-27. So kind of more to Dr. Poe's, what is it specifically that you're looking for, and are you in fact looking at the 27-28 calendar?
Yes. Good.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Thank you again for allowing us to be here and to share. I do have some planned remarks to help shape this conversation. However, I would like to answer that question directly in saying that you will obviously notice that this is not a defined plan that you see in the application. And that speaks to what Mr. Haggard has already named in that the timeline that was provided through the legislation. And I just want to stress that as I began on July 1st, I could have very quickly developed a superintendent's plan, if you will. But I know that meaningful innovation calls for all of our staff and our students, our families, and our community to engage in a design process that allows their voices and the vision that they have for our students to be evident in that plan. And so the urgency was not such for me that I would disregard that kind of process. And so I think I understand that the flow of today is intended to go waiver by waiver. However, the answer will continue to remain the same, that we are in the process right now of engaging with our stakeholders through a robust listening and learning tour, if you will, so that, again, we design a plan that not only addresses the gaps that have impacted our proficiency, attendance, staff experience, et cetera, but also consider ways that our portrait of a learner can be evident K through 12 and supports our students when they leave us.
Excellent.
May I
So-
piggyback onto that, Dr. Young, very
certainly.
briefly?
Please.
I think what's important for for context of how we are approaching this work is kind of the order of operations. Because if I understand,
It's wonky, let's face it.
It is. It's
right?
very wonky.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your grace in this because I think we're all trying to figure it out
And wonky's
together.
a really fancy word for it.
If I understand past practice, districts would come to you with a
Mm-hmm.
very specific idea. This is what we're bumping up against. This is the very specific waiver we need
Lots
to
of
move
conversation
forward.
with staff.
Yes.
Yep.
We feel like this opportunity via Senate Bill 263 was different in that it gave us the opportunity to identify areas in which we wanted to explore with greater flexibility with our community what could be possible. So we're seeing this as, getting flexibility via a waiver first, and then having that ability to go deep with our community about what is possible and come back to you with whatever that operational plan that the superintendent, staff, and the community develop. So I just want to be clear about how we're viewing this. It may be different.
So
from
we're
how
feeling
staff
it.
is.
You're right with us. And it is not the way we traditionally approach it. And of course, innovation would lead us to think of it in a different way. But that's a big part of our heartburn is we don't see the plan yet because you're in the throes of developing it, which is the only way in educational leadership to approach good school innovation and transformation. So yes. So we're going to have to figure out the way that we smooth out these wrinkles and get to some of the waiver requests. We do have the requirement, though, to go waiver by waiver based on the standards, and the legal implications of those are kind of difficult. So I appreciate that it puts you in just as bad a spot if you can't answer Randy's question. So what is it that you're really trying to do? Yet. So let's kind of recognize that we're all in a bad spot. All right. Would this be a good time, Superintendent Flukas, for you to make other remarks, or do you want to save those for conclusion? I think you hit on the highlights of you're in the throes of a design plan. Ultimately, when do you think you'll be able to unfold that to your community and to us?
Well, the process is happening now, and we certainly don't want to necessarily rush that process.
Right.
If I may, if you could indulge me to share some data and
Yeah,
such,
yeah, sure.
just to give you an idea of how we are engaging with our staff and other stakeholders. But I think you all likely know that the academic story in Covington is neither universally a fail or success. There are important signs of progress that have emerged even prior to my joining this great district. And, for the last 4 years, we've seen third grade reading proficiency increase from 37% to 49%. We've seen fourth grade math increase from 19% to 38%, and sixth grade reading increase from 26% to 36%. So with our individual schools, we have additional bright spots that are worthy of noting and worthy of replicating, identifying what's happening there that's working well. How do we scale that across multiple schools? Because ultimately, our responsibility is to ensure that we understand what is working, that we protect that, and we ensure that excellence becomes less dependent on the school or the grade or the teacher that a child has, and that there's an equitable opportunity to achieve no matter any of those circumstances. And so there are some real challenges, though, that as we engage with our community, that we are highlighting. So when we talk about establishing our visioning sessions, as we have been calling them, we started with our leaders through a leadership summit this summer, and we're looking at data like 47% proficiency in ELA elementary, or 37% math in elementary, 15% proficiency in seventh grade science. These are examples of data that cannot remain to be so. And some of the trajectories that we are seeing are also going in the wrong direction. So we have eighth grade reading and seventh grade math that have been declining, and that's absolutely unacceptable. The urgency is real. But I don't think that those numbers are an indictment on our educators. I think that they do, though, and create an obligation for us to examine, like, what are the systems that surround our educators and students, and how can those systems be stronger? That's, how we would plan to leverage this opportunity.
Thank you. On the heels of that comment, maybe this will be helpful to Dr. Poe's question. So how did you land on these 7 then? Like, I really need to see where they're going.
Absolutely.
Or some sense of how you got here.
Yes. So there was a task force that was established as soon as my tenure began. And that task force looked at a number of areas that were aligned to the data that I just described, as well as other data. So staff mobility and attrition, recruitment and retention efforts, student attendance, and such. And so we posed questions like, what are some of the limitations that we feel like we've experienced as a district? And obviously, I did a lot of listening during those conversations because I didn't have much context other than what was in black and white. And so we looked at these 7 or 8 different categories and talked about the feasibility of and the viability of addressing the concern or gap that we have through the flexibility of that particular area of a waiver. There were some areas that the task force absolutely thought that with a yes, we could run pretty fast, that there would be lots of staff engagement around it. Perhaps they were areas that many of our community members had already expressed as areas of frustration or concern. I might say like the attendance piece in particular. And then there were other areas that we knew it would take lots of discussion to identify, well, what does this mean for Covington if we had this kind of flexibility, and in what ways would the flexibility allow us to close some gaps? And so from there, we made a recommendation to the board for all of those categories that you see there, in terms of which it was kind of like a red, yellow, green, if you will, of areas that we thought were most viable to those that we thought might be a bit harder to achieve early on.
Okay. So Dr. Poe, do you want to take another stab at that question? Or anything specific about that?
No, I just think that, I guess my question, but we're told to go one by one, that out about 4 of the 7 or 5 of the 7, the district could already do those things. So in absence of, I guess the hard part is framing this question.
Yeah.
That the district, by contacting somebody at KDE, would already say, you can do X, Y, and Z. You don't need a particular waiver. If there was something you needed a waiver for, then they would say, you need a waiver for that. The board needs to waive that part of the statute. I'm just seeing in a couple of these, and I guess just like you said, of questions, of out of the 7, there's several that don't need a waiver, that you could accomplish
Right, oh,
that.
absolutely, yeah.
So the hard part to me is looking at all 70 of these as a separate item.
Okay. Well, I think we have to though, Randy, because, so back to this first one around the school calendar. Is there anything about the school calendar that you could share that you would do differently if this waiver were granted?
I wouldn't necessarily be specific, but I would say that we are looking to increase instructional time. We want to explore opportunities to increase intervention or more personalized learning time for students. At 6 through 12, we would love to explore opportunities for internships or externships and other career-connected learning experiences that aren't happening in the school building itself. And we've seen some examples of that, some innovative examples right here in Kentucky.
The good news is that you can
Yes.
do all of those things tomorrow. All right,
Without
so that's a
us.
thought.
That's what,
Yeah, and that's, you were hoping, to see that as you were thinking about the path forward, that we can say maybe the barriers that you perceive to be there are not in fact there.
yes.
Other board members, including those online, please forgive me. I do not want to ignore you in any way. Feel free to unmute at any time if I don't see you. Dr. Robinson.
Good afternoon, and I want to thank our visitors from Covington for being here to help provide the context that we need to even begin to address what might be a kind of a quagmire for both of us. So I'm wondering if we might consider respectfully receiving this request and advising our colleagues at Covington Independent that they do, in fact, have the authority to organize instructional time in a way that they understand to meet the needs of their students, and that we pledge to see that they get every support necessary from the Kentucky Department of Education to achieve the objective of increasing and enriching the instructional experience for all the students in the schools that they have named.
I love that, Dr. Robinson. Thank you. We do
Second
have a
that motion.
responsibility to consider the waiver. We have options for the waiver. Dr. Poe, this may help you with motion language. We can grant the waiver as it exists for all schools and programs included on the specific waiver form, Form 1, and that's all schools in Covington and any other school or educational program in Covington. I may have
That was
questions about
advice
that.
from our council. So,
Oh, okay.
yes.
That's like, no matter what, we cover it. Okay.
Okay.
We may deny the waiver in its entirety. We may grant portions of the waiver, Randy, while denying remaining sections or subsections, or we may grant the waiver's application to some but not all of the schools listed. So you do have options.
Can I take Sharon's wording and second that?
Uh,
That was that.
Certainly, and we have Corey here with us. Dr. Robinson, if you, but we have to specifically address the waiver. So we must either approve or deny the waiver
Well-
in whole or in part.
Sharon, can
So,
you
I think-
restate that in your particular
Or
thing for
perhaps
the
I
motion
offered
of?
to Dr. Robinson that the motion would be to deny the request, but pledge the support of the department in the way that you just recommended. If that's not what you intended, of course, please feel free to reword. Corey is here to help us work on motion language to make sure it is precise and accurate.
Chair.
Yes, and I think the language is really, really important. It is to deny the waiver for the reason we feel, we acknowledge that the school district has the authority to address their objective of increasing and enriching instructional time and opportunity for all Covington students. And all the students in Covington Independent School District. And that we further pledge that should they encounter barriers to this interpretation of our authority and their authority, they should bring it to our attention at once for further address.
All right. We will get to motion language specificity here in just a second. We have a motion, so I'm going to await a second before we have further discussion. Ms. Pyle. Do we have a second to the motion? I believe maybe, Dr. Poe, you already made it. Okay.
I'll second the motion because I think they can already do it. We're denying it not because we don't agree with them.
Agreed.
We're
Thank you.
denying it because you can do it. And if you don't think you can do it, you're going to come back to us and we're going to approve it.
All right, so let me
Okay, does that make
restate
sense to
the
you all?
motion in the second, and then we'll open up for further discussion. The motion, Dr. Robinson, please let me know if this captures it, is to deny the waiver request because the board acknowledges that the district already has the authority to increase and enrich educational opportunities for Covington students, and that the board further pledges to support the district by remaining available to address future waivers regarding the school calendar.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
May I make one further, I just have one further question. I need to understand what Covington Independent needs from us regarding the designation of innovative school, because
Okay.
I also do not want to I
May I
don't want to
table-
in any way.
May I hold that question for
obstruct-
just a moment, Dr. Robinson, and then let Superintendent Flukas respond? Because we have a motion, an active motion and second on the table, we are at the discussion phase specifically of waiver request form 1. But I will not forget you, Dr. Robinson. Ms. Pyle.
Thank you.
Yes, so part of on the waiver request is regards to the calendar committee. And rather than the calendar committee that's in statute, it wants to be able to have developed by district administrators, the innovation task force, and other identified stakeholders. So if you look at the actual regulation, I'm trying to understand, besides what is prescribed in here, one, who would be removed from this that you're requesting? And it does state you have to include at least one. So if you wanted more of the list that's in the statute, you could do that. So I'm trying to understand why this is a hurdle.
So I would, and we are not trying to be evasive of your specific questions. I think I'm going to keep going back to the process on which we were given by the General Assembly in this specific opportunity for Covington to lead in this innovation pilot. What I believe my colleagues and I did as an elected board, we took recommendations from the Innovation Task Force. We wanted, in my words, a maximum flexibility strategy because we believed we had to get these waiver requests in by August the 1st. And then you would have 30 days in which to review them. And so we wanted to identify the areas in which we believed greater flexibility could lead us to improve student outcomes, with the understanding that we would then be developing a very specific implementation plan given that flexibility. We did not want to put our community and our stakeholders through an exhaustive planning process. If then we were going to come to this board and then be denied the flexibility, we were kind of, I believe, inverting the order of operations of past practice with this. Additionally, wanting to receive waivers and the designation of the School of Innovation so that we could unlock the public and private investment to hopefully aid us both in the planning of what the implementation would become and then obviously aid us with the implementation of whatever plan the superintendent and her team and the community come up with. So I promise I'm not trying to evade your question. I'm saying and what Superintendent Flukas said, we don't know every detail right now.
So who all is on the Innovation Task Force?
The Innovation Task Force was started as a committee of the board. It included the superintendent, his designee, or her designee. Then it was 2 school board members and 3 members of the community.
Ms. Newman.
Thank you, Chair Young. I wanted to ask Todd, the state of the law right now is it that the Covington School District, Independent School District, can't get this $2 million unless they start this process now this year?
So there are 2 separate statutes. One is the waiver process that we are looking at that is open to all school districts. The General Assembly also passed another separate statute that provides for a pilot project program for the first year, which is the current school year, the 26-27 school year. Covington Independent is the only school district that is open to. In order to participate in the pilot project program, the statute provided that Covington had to submit waiver requests to this board by August 1st and have at least one of those waiver requests granted and have at least one school or program designated as a school of innovation. If they satisfy those hurdles, then they are eligible to participate in the pilot project program.
Excellent. Thank you for that clarification too, Ms. Newman.
See,
Dr. Poe.
well, I mean, we have a motion and a second out there.
Yeah, this is discussion. You're good.
Right, okay. So I guess that's where I'm going. Ultimately, somewhere along the line, we need to have a motion somewhere along the line that district that Covington is a district of innovation, that we grant them
After a
based-
waiver.
after a waiver
Is approved.
of one of these. So to me, the key issue is, as we're going through these, is to find the one that they really need the
Yeah.
waiver on
I felt like it
versus
was an
ones
Easter egg
that
hunt too,
don't
yeah.
require a waiver.
Yes.
Because
Agreed.
every, I would hate to say, okay, these don't have parameters because I know what you're trying to do, but it's not outlined. So I want to make sure that it's like, we're not saying you're not a district of innovation yet.
Yeah.
But this is something you can already do. If we grant a waiver on something you can already do, it's truly not a waiver.
No, I
That's the
agree.
problem
And
that we
I
have to come up
appreciate
with.
you making your thinking visible there, Dr. Poe, but I think you're exactly right. And I also don't want to keep putting Superintendent Flukas
Right.
and Chair Haggard through the, here's our response, we don't know yet, kind of paces on this. That's frustrating for
Yeah.
them and for us. So, but we do need to address these waivers. They are before us on a duly
Because I
prepared
like to
agenda.
get to
And,
question number 2, it's more important.
all right, let's answer question
Not
number
question
one
number 2,
first.
but the next
Waiver
KRS.
request number 2,
Yeah.
yes. So we have a motion and a second on the floor to deny waiver request Form 1 regarding the school calendar. Any further discussion? Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, yes.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney, yes.
Patty Mentor,
Patty Mentor, yes.
Felicia Newman,
Felicia Newman, yes.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, yes.
Randy Poe.
Randy Poe, yes, but I want to make a comment. The comment
Feel free
is
to
that,
explain your vote.
yeah, I'm going to explain the vote, that it's based on, I already think Covington can do this without our approval. So therefore,
Yeah, and-
yes,
Yes, and we acknowledge that in the motion.
right.
Sharon Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, yes.
Steve Trimble,
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.
Lou Young.
Lou Young, yes.
The motion carries.
All right. The next item on the agenda the next waiver on the agenda for consideration is to approve or deny Covington Independent's request to waive KRS 158.070, Section 1D, 2B. Oops, I didn't go far enough, did I? Excuse me, we're reading the wrong one. This is a waiver request for 701 KAR 5:100. Also in your board portal. And perhaps I'll open and invite you, is there anything you'd like to say about your conversations around school-based decision-making and these waiver requests? Oh, no, Todd first, sorry. Todd first.
Thank you, Chair Young. The regulation requested by the Covington Independent Schools be waived is 701 KR 5100 School-Based Decision-Making Guidelines. Generally, this regulation establishes the SBDM database and associated reporting requirements, the application process and approval criteria for alternative models of SBDM, exemption requirements, training requirements for SBDM members, and the provider training requirements for department endorsement. The district seeks the waiver to apply to Glen Oswing Elementary, John G. Carlisle Elementary, Latonia Elementary, 9th District Elementary, 6th District Elementary, James E. Biggs Early Childhood Center, Holmes Middle, Holmes High, and any other school or education program operated and/or funded by the district. Substantive review noted that the district's desire to include local industry representatives is especially cogent given the location and workforce needs of the community. Substantive review also noted that the district refers to the SBDM as advisory in nature. If the district wishes to include additional community stakeholders in an advisory capacity, they can do so now without seeking a waiver. Noted was that KRS 160.345 requires the inclusion of SBDM within a school's governance model and provides the minimum requirements for establishing an alternative SBDM model. However, the district has not sought a waiver of any portion of KRS 160.345. Therefore, substantive review assumed the district intends to have SBDM, but seeks a waiver from the timelines set forth in Section 2 of the regulation, not the entire regulation. Should the KBE waive the entirety of 701 KR 5100, there will be no process by which the district can establish their alternative model, provide the required evidence under KRS 16345 subsection 7, document the minority requirements under the statute, or document the required training under the statute. Substantive review noted there is no indication from Kentucky schools currently operating an alternative SBDM model that the timeline is a hindrance to the model's implementation, nor has Covington Independent provided such a description in the waiver application. Covington Independent should have already held council elections for the 26-27 school year, and current councils should already be seated and working in support of their students. Finally, substantive review noted that it is unlikely this waiver will improve student outcomes, achievement, or operational excellence.
Thank you. So big question here. One of the things we don't want you to do is inadvertently box yourselves out of the flexibility that you would have under 160.345, which is not included in your waiver application. So that's a foul. We don't want that to happen. There is a way forward in 701 KAR 5:100 if you are seeking to waive only Section 2, which regards timelines, which certainly doesn't cause me any heartburn. The board will have to consider that as a whole, but that particular portion of the regulation perhaps fits in with more of what you have in mind around school-based governance. But Superintendent Flukas, is there more that you want to say about SBDM?
Sure. The only piece I would add to what you've described, there was consideration around timeline, just given when we might receive an approval or denial from this board.
Right.
That would then impact our ability to act with more urgency to that particular category of waiver. The goal was also, as Mr. Allen noted, to expand access to SBDM for governance purposes to ensure that our community had some additional avenues to participate and support our schools in meaningful and substantive ways.
Okay, thank you. And so I think that's really important that we not do anything unnecessarily hamper your ability to propose an alternative model. We do have at least 4 unusually alternative SBDM models in Kentucky. So that is a path forward for you. Again, part of your early planning
Yes.
around innovation.
Thank you.
So I might suggest a motion that we approve, that we amend or revise, or we partially approve a waiver request of KAR 701 KAR 5:100, Section 2, regarding timelines for SBDM councils.
I make that motion.
And we would either deny or approve the remainder of the request. So we would be approving only partial waiver.
Well, I'm in favor of that, but I'm actually in favor of the whole situation and the fact that not for this school year, but for 26-27, that if we're applying the changes in the timeline to give people, then we're saying we're okay with that. In 25 and 26, we should give them the authority to continue with that, as opposed to saying they got to come back because it's only for this school year.
But they do have the alternative model already available to them.
I'm in favor of abolishing the whole thing on SBDM. I'm just telling you, I know the rest of the board won't, but I think that one of the things of innovation that prohibits us for innovation is site-based councils. Okay, I think they have a place for input, but my dealings, there's always been 1 or 2 things that they say no on, and it cuts the whole thing down from a district-wide implementation. So if you're a district of innovation, the district itself should get the final call on a particular issue.
I appreciate the perspective. And don't share it, but I appreciate the perspective
that's
there.
fine.
And when I think about schools of innovation, I think of that as an opportunity for alternative SBDM models to actually
Sure.
flourish.
But that's the
But-
allowing,
But then we would want to get more specific as your planning unfolds to, which school or schools in the district, in fact, would benefit from an alternative school governance model.
Might I add one note?
Please.
And I certainly appreciate the room that Dr. Poe is extending. We want to encourage and leverage our SBDM councils to be strong partners in our innovation planning. And so there is no desire to bypass SBDM. In fact, I think that it is my job to ensure that they have all the information that they need to help inform good decision-making. And so the allowance again here is just to ensure that we have some timeline flexibility, but also that we can enhance our councils through Chair Young, what you mentioned in terms of some flexible SBDM modeling.
So without putting words in your mouth, a waiver of Section 2 would be helpful.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
Well, may I ask a question?
Please.
You had to boil this down for me. I'm sorry. How does this help the kids? In
Yes.
25 words or less, how does this help the kids?
That's a great question.
Absolutely. Any decisions that we need to make on behalf of our students related to instruction, engagement, student support, et cetera, it's going to be important that our SBDM councils are engaged in that process, are a part of that process, and help inform it. So absent their viability, we wouldn't be able to even implement strong ideas based on what our community shares in the vision.
Trace.
Are you getting any ideas from students?
Absolutely. We are planning a student advisory council to support the innovative work. We can't make these decisions without the students who we intend to impact.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, I have language for a potential motion if any board member so desires. The motion would be to grant waiver request as to Section 2 of 701 KAR 5:100 regarding timelines, and to deny the waiver as to the remaining sections of 701 KAR 5:100, noting that alternative council governance models are available to Covington Independent. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion since Covington said it was okay.
We have a motion from Dr. Poe. Do we have a second?
It's Steve Trimble. I will second the motion.
Thank you. So we have tailored the motion to approve a section and deny the remaining sections of the waiver, trying to protect the alternative model and affordances already available to Covington. Any further discussion?
I would just say that if they run into problems with the alternative structure,
Come
to
back.
come back to us like we said in one.
I really
'Cause
appreciate that.
I feel like giving additional freedom, but I hear the rest of the board, so.
Thank
come
you,
back
Randy.
if
And
you
that
feel
is
so.
something that we will leave you with,
Yes.
wrapped in a bow, and that is come back, come back.
Absolutely.
And this team is ready to help you design. We're ready to help with innovation. I want to come up and be on a task force, but we're ready to consult with you on any waiver requests that you need, when you need them, as timely as we can possibly manage. So,
Thank you.
any further discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Jones, if you would, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, I vote yes.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney, I vote yes.
Patty Mentor,
Patty Mentor, I vote yes, and briefly explain my vote.
Please.
I commend you on your commitment to strong partnerships with parents and stakeholders in this model, and I'm thrilled that you're pursuing a empowerment for your student stakeholders as well. That is how we build great schools.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Felicia Newman,
Felicia Newman, I vote yes.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, yes.
Randy Poe,
Randy Poe, yes.
Sharon Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, yes.
Steve Trimble,
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.
Lou Young.
Lou Young, I vote yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. The next waiver request, number 3, is regards waiving of 702 KAR 7:140. Mr. Allen.
Thank you. That is a regulation titled School Calendar. The regulation generally establishes the requirements school districts must follow regarding school calendars, including dates calendars must be established annually, dates calendars must be filed with KDE, requirements to make up instructional time missed due to emergency, emergency day waivers, and activities of the student attendance day. District seeks for the waiver to apply to the same list of schools previously discussed, and that all of those schools be designated schools of innovation. Substantive review noted that the district has already adopted its calendar for the upcoming school year, 26-27, and it is unclear why the district would not have sufficient time to adopt a calendar within the regulatory framework for the 27-28 school year. The waiver request specifically notes a desire to waive 702 KAR 7140 Section 3 as to afford the ability to shorten days without approval or declaration of emergency by the Board of Education. However, the regulation provides for declaration of emergency by the superintendent, not the board. The district did not provide a plan for how instructional hours will be recovered for any days missed or shortened. KRS 156-161 prohibits the Kentucky Board of Education from waiving any statute or administrative regulation that requires instructional time at least equivalent to that set forth in KRS 158.070. Kentucky's statutory requirement for instructional time already falls below national norms for both days and hours, while approximately 180 instructional days and 900 to 1,080 instructional hours are most common nationwide. When combined in comparison to other states with required instructional days, hours, Kentucky's instructional year ranks 43rd. Substantive review noted that the district also seeks a waiver from the district-wide calendar and schedule. However, the district can already establish a different calendar and schedule for each of its schools without a waiver of this regulation. Granting a waiver of the regulation in its entirety would encompass Section 5, which lists allowable activities of a student attendance day. The allowable activities conducted during the school day include courses and content provided in the Kentucky Academic Standards. Waiver would allow the district to design its courses and content in a way that is not aligned to Kentucky Academic Standards. The request does not provide specific academic areas to be measured, methods for progress monitoring, or anticipated outcomes based on evidence-based best practices. In addition, the district makes reference to locally designed non-traditional instruction days in its waiver request. As the district has not sought a waiver of KRS 158.070 subsection 9 or 701 KR 5:150, the approval of this waiver would not grant the district any new flexibilities related to non-traditional instructional day rules or procedures. Substantive review concluded that it is unlikely the waiver of this regulation will result in the district realizing improved school or program operation, student academic achievement, or student outcomes.
All right, thank you. I'd love to hear from you, Superintendent Flukas, on this one. I will have to tell you the heartburn it causes me is that it sounds to me, as I boiled it down several days over, is that you're asking for a waiver that would allow you to shorten days without approval or declaration of emergency by the Board of Education.
So I will state that we don't have any desire to serve our children less.
Thank you.
That is in a nutshell. I know that the task force discussed, again, creative opportunities for students learning that wasn't happening inside the school building. And so I believe that the inclusion of that particular category was to account for what instruction looks like when it's not happening in a traditional setting.
Okay. I do think it's important to note for the board's information that the overarching statute that they are not seeking waiver from is KRS 158.070, and this board, Todd, am I accurate in saying this board does not have the authority to waive instructional time under that statute?
The board cannot provide any waiver
Of
that
less
would
than-
result in less instructional
time.
time than is set forth in that statute.
So that's off limits for us. We can't say, go to school 120 days. We can't do it.
So my question on this one, when I read it, once again, is we have that opportunity to do things. But this is why I was going back to the previous question of the innovation, because these kind of wrap together. That what it sounds like, there are sometimes you want to change the schedule, but you can't change it because of SBDM, because that particular school chooses not to do that. And once the school calendar is set.
Well, now, the school board has ultimate authority over the number of days and the start time and finish time because of busing primarily of the school day. That's outside the confines of the SBDM
Correct, but if
reg.
they wanted to choose the elementary to have half-days when the others don't. They don't have that authority.
They can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can operate a schedule that the elementary is not going to school today, but the middle and high school is going?
Yes, and you just have to manage the busing of all of that. But it has to be planned in advance. Still
Would
have to
you-
hit the minimum 1,062.
I was always under the impression if one school wasn't in, we have to ask for a waiver for that, declared an emergency. But like, for example, I've been told
After the
from.
calendar's built, it would require an emergency.
Okay, that's,
You
so
can't
you
just
don't
say
have the
one school doesn't go
flexibility.
because the boiler is out. That would be an emergency, and that school would have to make up the days.
Correct, but let's say that I'm looking at my instructional results, elementary. We did our formative or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And we really needed to pull I'm looking that I can't pull my resources in and have one school there, dismiss the other ones if I don't have a calendar waiver process that wasn't set up at the beginning. There's no flexibility once the calendar has been set.
Right, and this is related to setting that calendar. So you're right, those decisions have to be made at the time that the calendar is adopted. You can't decide it a couple months in.
But I can tell an SBDM that you're going to do an alternative instructional day here, and I can control that. I thought once you
When you
set
build
the calendar,
I think-
SBDM has control of what occurs during that instructional day.
They do, once you set the calendar.
That's correct. So that's
Are we
where
saying
I'm.
different things or the same?
No, I think that, no, it's going back to my other question about the SBDM statute, really. That by not having authority, the superintendent can't alter their instructional day once it's been set.
I would agree that the SBDM council, once the established start to the day and end to the day, with the exception of the professional development days that are allotted and able to be used by the school district, can be, have decisions over how to unfold that school day. Yes.
I don't think so. I think SBDM controls the curriculum. Once you establish that particular day,
Oh, okay,
SBDM does control
The school day.
the school day.
Agreed. Todd's suggesting helping me out here by calling Matt Ross, Associate Commissioner of the Office for Finance and all the stuff.
And all the stuff, that's right.
Operations. I knew there was another letter.
There you go,
Operations
Matt,
there.
they're throwing it to
All right,
you.
pop quiz, Matt. So the question I think we're boiling it down to in terms of when setting the school calendar, we know that 158.070 is going to govern the 1,062 hours, minimum 170 days, et cetera, setting the calendar. Randy's question, perhaps channeling what Covington may be interested in, is can the district designate in the calendar the use of days, specific days?
So I brought a little help with me. And Jesse Carlton from my office does a lot of work with school calendars. So I'll let her take a first stab at it.
All right, thank you, Jesse.
No problem. So when you're setting up your original calendar, yes, you can set up a calendar where an elementary school goes days that your middle and high school does not.
Correct.
Correct.
When you set that calendar up. Now, once that calendar is set, if something happens for that day, then you're looking into some way to make up those days and hours. You'll still have to hit your 170 if you're on a standard calendar, or 1062 if you're just on a variable. But if you have overscheduled, which, a lot of districts will if they're having, preparing for
Right.
snow days and other things, if you just miss one day and your elementary didn't go, but you're still going to meet your minimums, you may not add that back to the calendar. You may ask for a waiver for emergency day for that day to make sure everybody's the same. But when we check days, we're checking for the minimum to make sure every school hit the minimum.
But what I'm saying is, or I'm saying, once I have my schedule calendar set, okay, you have your committee, they approve it, we send it into the state, we send it to you, you approve it. But I get my test scores back, and and I say, I want to change this for elementary, I've got to come back and ask you for that.
You have to go to your local board, I believe, but
I'm
once you
saying the
send-
board approves
once
the
you
additional
send-
day, but my additional day has to still get approved by whoever approved my original calendar. I think
Correct.
they're or I would be asking for, I don't want to go that extra step. I want to be able to make that decision whether the SBDM wants to go on that day or not, or whatever. I want to add that day in. Now, they're going to have to pay their staff and everything for that particular additional day. But I want that flexibility. But under my understanding, once the calendar has been set, if I add a different day, just like I do snow days, I have to send my calendar back into you for approval.
You don't send that back in until the end of school for the amended calendar. So
Okay,
we-
but I still have to do an amended calendar somewhere.
Correct, but it's after the fact, at the end of the year,
To show that you met the minimum.
to show that you met the minimum. We have a lot of districts who'll say, this is our original calendar, and then
Yeah.
something will happen. Construction goes long, something
Correct.
happens, they have to push their date. They don't necessarily send us a second original calendar, because we have their original plan. Just on the amended calendar that comes in June 30th, we pick up and say, oh, they didn't really start August 15th, they had to push to August
So
19th.
let me just ask this question. So for them, if I'm Courtney back in my day, if I wanted to say the school's going to go on Saturday, the May whatever Saturday, I can go ahead and do that. They have the authority to do that. And I just put it in at the end and it's going to be approved. It's going to be amended then. You're saying they have that authority to do that. See, I don't think I did have that authority because I tried that a couple times. So that's why I'm seeing why the importance of a calendar waiver is there for the calendar. But if you're saying that they're fine and you're going to approve it, then they don't have to ask for a calendar waiver.
So you took
We're
it to
back
the
to the
board
same.
and they said they would pay all the teachers an additional contract day.
We're going to
They
extend, we had to
adjusted
extend the
teacher
school
count
calendar.
Contract.
We had to go under ESS, Extended School Services, to provide those kids and not require the other kids to come to school, but certain kids. In this case, I'd want every child to come, and I'd have to extend my school calendar. I had to do it under ESS and then say half the school didn't have to come. I had to go in and identify who was struggling and make them come in versus those who left. Now, you all weren't there at this time. We're going back 10 years ago, but that's how it had to be done. So it was told you had to do it under ESS, is what I was told.
And-
Because we extended the school day for 4,500 kids, okay? And then I had to pay a different rate instead of teacher rates. We had to calculate all that stuff because we extended the school day for some kids for 45 days. I didn't have that flexibility. We had to do it under ESS. Help me out, Todd. Yes or no?
So the way the statute currently provides is that a school district can't exceed 7 hours of instructional time per day. The calendar, as Matt and his team indicated, must be submitted to KDE. Those dates are provided in this regulation, requested a waiver of. But the school district, and we have this happen with school districts across the state all throughout the school year, have to make changes throughout the school year. They don't ask us for permission to do that. They just submit the final calendar at the end of the school year to Matt and his team for them to process.
To ensure that the minimums are met.
So that's on record for you then. There you go. That's the interpretation.
Now,
So
we
the
do
board
have-
has
That's
to
fine.
approve it,
Now,
and
the
board
commissioner
has to
does
work
have
with teacher
the-
The
contracts.
board has the authority to do what he just said.
So the
I had to
commission,
do ESS. I'm just telling you, years ago.
if you seek to exceed 7 hours of instructional time per day, that requires permission of the commissioner.
Then also too, if, for example, if you have one building that had water main issues, the commissioner can waive that for that school under emergency provisions. But that's the extent of the waivers for me.
And granting those types of waivers is in this regulation that.
And that time
The
is not
district
made
seeks to
up,
waive.
right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm talking about requiring additional time. Because the whole issue that we're looking at is improving academic performance, not decreasing instructional time. So, but I'm great with it since you all said that they can add it and change it. Doesn't bother me.
We have schools.
I think that's a different interpretation than years ago that this department gave. We always had to get our calendars approved back in the day.
So how does this strike you? Perhaps we would consider a motion to grant the waiver request in part to allow the district to modify its instructional calendar to add instructional time, relieving my heartburn, without implementing a calendar that provides less than the minimum required instructional time set forth in KRS 158.070.
There you go.
So as long as you take away the notion here that you're not making up time and, this somehow slides by under the statutory requirements,
That's great.
I think you have the flexibility to do that now, but we're certainly open to saying that in terms of the waiver to allow you to add instructional time to a calendar.
That would certainly align with our intention.
Okay.
Great.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm reading this and it says, or start date aligned with community rhythms. That sounds very agrarian to me. What does that mean? Community rhythms.
So what that has meant in some districts is if you have or serve a population of students that are part of like migrant families and they are going to be away from your community for an extended period of time, but they arrive back around, let's say, late August, then you would want your school year to start later in August to accommodate.
Question answered. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I never knew you could start school for one population and not another population. I was always, so I'm all for
Yeah,
it.
it's hard. It's
That's
hard.
great.
Contracts.
I've learned something new
It's
after
hard.
40
Contracts
years.
people don't do it, Randy, because of busing and families who have an elementary age who
I understand
requires
that,
on the
but we
middle
did that.
schooler.
And we did it as ESS. I mean, I have 4,500 kids.
After the
that we did.
school year started, though.
Yeah, and during the third quarter.
Right.
To try to get them out
Right.
before the end of the school year. I spent over millions of dollars on alternative busing schedules, but we did it. We worked within it. They've got the approval. I make that motion that you said.
Okay. We have a motion from Dr. Poe. Do we have a second?
I will second that motion.
Second from Mr. McKinney. Any further discussions about partial waiver approval for 702 KAR 7:140? Excuse me, not partial,
No, that's the whole thing.
with the caveat of, that provides, that without implementing a calendar that provides less than the minimum required. So this would be specifically adding instructional time. Hearing no further discussion. Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, I vote yes.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney votes yes.
Patty Mentor,
Patty Mentor votes yes.
Felicia Newman,
Felicia Noman, I vote yes.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, yes.
Randy Poe,
Randy Poe, yes.
Sharon Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, yes.
Steve Trimble,
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.
Lou Young.
Lou Young, yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I would ask the board now to entertain a motion. Nope. We're going to now consider specific waiver request number 4. And this is related to KRS 157.320, section 14, and regarding the single salary schedule, I believe, and differentiated compensation.
Thank you, Chair Young. KRS 157.320 subsection 14 sets forth the definition of single salary schedule as used in KRS 157.310 to KRS 157.440, the statutes governing SEEK and SEEK eligibility. The district seeks for this waiver to apply to all of the schools and programs previously mentioned, and that all of those schools be designated schools of innovation. Substantive review noted that the district did not request a waiver of KRS 157.350 subsection 3A, which requires school districts to compensate all teachers on the basis of a single salary schedule in order to be eligible for Support Education Excellence in Kentucky, or SEEK funding. Therefore, the single salary schedule requirement will remain in place even if a waiver of 157.320 subsection 14 is granted. District did not adequately describe the processes that will be utilized to measure success as a result of the waiver if granted using data and accountability. Substantive review noted the district does not address the broader risk to the district finances that may result from the instability created by not implementing a predictable single salary schedule. The substantive review noted that it is unlikely the schools and programs identified in the district's waiver request will realize meaningful operational efficiency improvements. Likewise, it is unlikely that the students enrolled in the schools and programs identified in the district's waiver request will realize improved academic achievement. Finally, substantive review noted that 702 KAR 3:310 explicitly allows for the adoption of a differentiated compensation plan to accomplish the purposes established in 157.075 to address identified district needs. The district does not provide adequate information regarding why the latitude that already exists in statute and regulation is insufficient for its purposes.
All right, thank you. So the first one, technical foul, on 157.353A, by not asking for a waiver of that, you're caught in, assuming you still want to participate in SEEK, you're caught in a loop there that won't allow you to still participate in SEEK without a single salary schedule. So that's probably a back to the drawing board consideration there. And I will say that as a superintendent, I also use a differentiated compensation plan by using supplemental salary duties for our alternative school is an example that we did in Jessamine when I was there. So you do have flexibility around differentiated compensation with board approval. So is there anything you'd like to add about diff comp that you think might be helpful on this one, or can we get you there?
I think that this is an area, again, I appreciate the technical and the substantial review of this. I think how my board and my colleagues came to this is we have been particularly struggling with teacher retention in Covington for quite some time. So for about the past 10 years or so, our teacher retention has been twice the state average. And so we know, when I talked earlier about wanting to build a destination school district, I really mean, and for educators as well, that they want to come to Covington and build their career. And so you also may be aware of our unique situation in Northern Kentucky with 16 different school districts that are poaching and fighting. And it's, we would give a 4% across the
Cincinnati Public right across the
and
river.
Cincinnati Public. I was going to get to that. You can literally just drive right across the suspension bridge from Covington to Cincinnati and probably make about $10,000 more per year as a starting teacher. And so what the purpose of seeking flexibility in this area was to try to reimagine what talent recruitment and retention could look like in Covington schools and really seek out what are some of those innovative models across the country that have proven to be successful. So I certainly appreciate the technical kind of fouls that we're running into here, but the philosophy is how can we build a much more robust talent recruitment and retention strategy? And obviously compensation has to be a part of that.
100%. Giving the constraints. Oh, thank you, Dr. Robinson.
All I can say is they're singing our song. I want to encourage the superintendent and the board chair to please work with us on this.
Yes.
Because we have spent several months now working with the Education Professional Standards Board to address and to frame up a career-rich retention strategy that we want to see up and running. So let's get our heads together, let's get our act together and build a talent management system for the professional teachers that we have, that where they can contribute, get professional and personal fulfillment, and oh yeah, by the way, compensation as well, so that their skills, their enriched skills, their ability, and their passion all get leveraged to the benefit of student achievement. So it's the philosophy that we are trying to actualize in policy, and it requires us to look at the compensation system, but the compensation system has to match a career development strategy, which includes increased accountability, responsibility and professional fulfillment. So you're singing our song, but I'm not sure that this waiver is.
I was going to say on that
going to
upbeat
help
note,
get
you
us
know
there.
we're about to deny the request, so
Yeah.
they're going to feel a lot better about it though, based on what you just said.
Yes, before you deny, I will say
Yes,
we
please.
welcome.
How do we get to her
Wait,
yes?
Superintendent Flukas.
I just
Yes.
we welcome that partnership because
Thank
we are needing to get pretty creative in Northern Kentucky. And I would be remiss if I did not say that our task force certainly had some heartburn around this particular area. While we know that we need to enrich our entire model of compensation, professional development, et cetera, the sustainability of, modifying from a single salary unit is difficult to project out and sustain. So again, we welcome the partnership.
You know from research, there's been a lot of failed attempts at differentiated
I have
compensation
certainly seen
that have
lots of
harmed
failed
student
attempts.
achievement. So we don't want to
Yes.
put you in a
you.
trajectory toward that kind of an outcome. I'm sorry, Dr. Poe, what was your
No,
question?
I was just going to say, I like what Sharon said. And years ago, we were studying the same thing. We went to the same model you did, Lou, by department heads and chairs and all that kind of stuff. But it was Denver City Schools at the time, with their Teachers Association and so forth, did put together a pretty detailed, competitive system. I guess that's what I would be asking our state chief here during the state chiefs conference. Is there any states out there that have something that we can look at? Because ultimately, it should be something, if we approve, then it should be something that others could ask for approval also.
Yeah.
And what I remember about Denver City Schools that we couldn't do at the particular time, they had department chairs, they had our team leaders, they had all those different things. But they also had the fact of what Sharon was saying. As I increased in my, let's say, knowledge field,
Professional capacity.
yeah, that let's say I got a master's in mathematics, and then I could teach AP or something different versus a master's in education that didn't allow me to teach those dual credit or the other courses, that I could pay them differently because of their professional capacity increase. That's what they did. We did, we just didn't have the resources in our case to do it. We didn't have any innovative funds to match with that. That's why we couldn't do it at the time. But I like what Sharon said.
Master
I guess,
teacher
is what I'm
models,
saying.
yeah.
Or master teacher, that's a good way of putting it. That's what they had. Master, because what we had to do, we created instructional coaches and unfortunately took
out
master
of
teachers
classrooms.
out of the classroom
Right.
to pay them more when we wanted to keep them in the classroom, but pay them additionally to be the mentors and things like that. So I applaud what you want to do.
Yeah.
I think this is, how do we get, how do we, more than likely, as you said, we're denying the thing, but we want to get to what Sharon said. How do we do that as a Kentucky board?
Yeah.
To come back to Covington and say, we're with you as a partner, let's try to figure this out.
And this is recorded, so we've pledged our support, Dr. Robinson, so.
As a point of clarification.
Yes.
When you describe the flexibility, or when Mr. Allen described the flexibility, one model that we have explored is the opportunity culture model, where you are adding additional benefit for your master teachers to maintain a caseload. So they are still in the classroom for a portion of the day,
Right.
but then they model instruction for their peers, et cetera, but they are also then coaching. Is it my understanding, based on what you've shared, that we have the opportunity to implement something like that currently?
Absolutely. And Sharon's clapping. I don't know if you can, yeah, Sharon's clapping. So yes, absolutely. Keep in mind that the waiver really at the technical level is, we don't want you to not be able to participate and seek. So
Yes.
the denial comes from that, not from any desire for you not to pursue improved compensation, improved teacher retention, and improved teacher professional capacity at Covington. In fact, Covington's a nice small ship to turn in that regard. And in terms of really living up to the designation of innovation, schools of innovation, that's a way we can learn statewide about that work.
Wonderful.
But just so I think we're clear, when the single salary schedule, they can do those things, but that is then be part of the single salary
They
schedule.
would come back with
or
a
everybody
different
in the district has to be offered that same opportunity. You couldn't give it to one and deny another.
Well, they would
on a
model,
single salary.
they would
schedule.
model that. They would come back, kind of fix the technical problems with
Yeah.
the waiver as it currently stands, and then work with the department to make sure that it's allowable, or if in fact we still need to waive something, that's an option.
Okay.
So I'm open
Chair
to
Young, Chair Young,
Yes,
let me
please.
just also add, let me encourage Covington to work with us to embrace what I regard to be another aspect of the responsibility of innovators, and that is really careful documentation of some of these steps to get it done, because we will want to inform and support others who are facing those same challenges. So I guess it's a further gesture of partnership here, because we are interested in trying to understand our policy opportunities for state to support a broader statewide effort in this regard. We are losing more teachers statewide at that 5 to 7 year interval, where the loss is really a terrible loss to any enterprise. And we have got to address that. So this is a pipeline issue, but if you'll work with us, we'll be happy to see you take on this really important education workforce issue.
Excellent, thank you. At this point, I would be open to a motion to deny waiver request of KRS 157.320, Section 14, because it would preclude the district from receiving SEEK funding without a waiver of KRS 157.350, Section 3A, while pledging to partner with the district in exploring a statewide effort to retain excellent teaching professionals. Do I have such a
Holly
motion?
Bloodworth, I make that motion.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Bloodworth. Do we have a second? Second from Ms. Pyle. Any further discussion? Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, yes.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney, yes.
Patty Mentor,
Patty Mentor, yes.
Felicia Newman,
Felicia Newman, yes.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, yes.
Randy Poe,
Randy Poe, yes.
Sharon Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, yes.
Steve Trimble,
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.
Lou Young.
Lou Young, yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Unless there's a desire to have more of a conversation, I think we can probably expedite the next waiver, request number 5. The team has reviewed this and determined that the information provided in waiver 5 does not, in fact, require a waiver from this board. More specifically, as it relates to the use of formative assessments. Todd.
Thank you, Dr. Young. So the statute, KRS 158-6453, subsection 8, permits school districts to utilize commercial or district interim or formative assessments to provide data on student growth toward mastery of Kentucky academic standards, so long as the district minimizes reduction in instructional time related to the administration of such assessment. The district's application packet indicated that it wishes to administer assessments outside of Kentucky academic standards. Therefore, it was determined that a waiver of 158-6453 subsection 8 is not necessary. Specifically, the district mentioned administering assessments to measure student social emotional metrics or career readiness indicators.
And portrait of a graduate, I assume. Yes,
Yes.
yes. And we do see that work happening across Kentucky, so.
Instead of refusing, would it be better if they just withdraw that particular waiver? So it doesn't sound like we denied it.
That's up to them if
We
they
don't want
wish
to
to
hurt
withdraw it.
anybody's
Yeah.
feelings. I don't know,
just
it might
didn't want
take
us
an
to
action
say-
of your full board. I don't know what your board governance would require.
I mean,
It'll be a gentle denial.
yeah, I think a denial is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
You-
trying
You're not
be-
going to hurt our feelings.
Okay.
Denial without prejudice.
That's right, that's right. So I would consider a motion to deny this waiver request of KRS 158.645, whoops, nope, sorry. Keep losing my place. Yeah, 158.6453, Section 8, regarding formative assessments. Because a waiver is not necessary to achieve stated objectives in the waiver request.
So moved.
Dr. Minter, do we have a second?
I will second that in my most gentle voice.
Mr. McKinney gently seconds the motion. Any further discussion? Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, I vote yes, but do love the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney, yes.
Patty Mentor,
Patty Mentor, yes.
Felicia Newman,
Felicia Newman, yes.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, yes.
Randy Poe,
Randy Poe, yes.
Sharon Porter Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, yes.
Steve Trimble,
Steve Trimble, I gently vote yes.
and Lou Young.
Lou Young, yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. We will now turn our attention to specific waiver request form number 6 regarding a request to waive KRS 159.140, sections 3A and B, regarding compulsory attendance requirements. Mr. Allen.
Section 3A and B of the statute sets forth the requirement that the Director of Pupil Personnel refer matters to the county attorney when a student is truant and/or accumulates 15 or more days of unexcused absences per year. The district seeks this waiver to apply to all of the schools and programs previously mentioned and seeks that all of these schools receive School of Innovation designation. Substantive review noted that while a well-designed, locally determined tiered attendance intervention model may lead to increased student outcomes when compared to the current statutory process, the current waiver application does not sufficiently describe the intervention model that will replace the statutory process if a waiver is granted. The department is unable to say whether the waiver will conflict with the requirements of KRS 159.010, compulsory attendance, given the amount of information provided in the documents submitted by the district. The department is unable to determine whether this waiver will support or harm long-term student outcomes. The waiver could negatively affect school operations if implementation results in lower student attendance and a corresponding reduction in state funding.
Thank you, and I would love to hear more about
Yes.
this one. I heard you guys mention it earlier, and I'm sure it's really critical in the way you're thinking about innovation moving forward.
Absolutely. You all are likely aware that just over 30% of our student population is made up of a Latino community from Guatemala. And historically, this particular community has placed great emphasis on young people working to help support their families. Additionally, many of the families that are amongst this population are undocumented families. That means that every time they leave the house, they are at risk of being detained and deported. We find great issue with involving the legal system as a measure of intervention for the students that I just described. And a mother or a father not coming home ever again is extremely alarming to me. And being the ones to essentially have initiated that process is equally as alarming. And so with the attendance waiver, that would give us flexibility to continue to implement and probably even enhance, not probably, enhance our attendance intervention system. We want those students in our classrooms every single day, period. But once a student reaches the statutory referral threshold, the law currently prescribes the next step that we are hoping to avoid through the waiver. And so what we are asking to test is whether, for some students, a highly structured and documented district intervention can produce better results than legal intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just quickly add, Dr. Young,
Please.
to Mr. Allen's note, I think this is also getting back to kind of our mixed up order of operations with this opportunity for us, where I understand, we don't have the complete intervention laid out. What we're trying to seek here is the waiver to explore what that could be, just like Superintendent Fluke has mentioned.
Thank you, and I appreciate your heart for that and have really, really worried about enforcement of immigration issues in our schools and the impact that has on the children themselves and the entire school community. So I hear your heart there. Here's my heartburn on this one, and that is this essentially is relieving you of any requirements to report truancy to your local administrative offices of the court and your local court system. So I would urge real caution before even thinking about this for the Guatemalan population, your Latino, your immigrant population, because I don't want to think about you giving up the mechanism that you have at your disposal when you need to pull that lever. So that would be kind of where my concerns lie in thinking about this before this new approach to absenteeism and truism and chronic absenteeism unfolds.
Yes.
There's a side of me that says hold off on that one, but that's my concern. And I don't know whether you've had conversations with the local courts, because I think they also have flexibility there in terms of helping you find ways to enforce this statute in a more humane way. So
Yes, what the task force discussed is still executing that step when it seems appropriate. There's not a desire to completely omit the step of engaging with our law enforcement. However, we believe as educators and those that are conducting the home visits, connecting with families, getting to know every student story by story, that we have the opportunity to leverage all of that historical context to then make an informed decision of when we would push that particular lever. That is what we are getting at.
I would want to make sure the board also knows, and Todd, you'll have to help me with the statutes on here, but it's my understanding that the board does not have the authority to waive anything related to compulsory attendance. So, but is there some exceptionality here with 159, 140?
So the statute that provides the waiver authority to the board indicates that it cannot waive a statute that provides for compulsory attendance with the minimum amount of time required. This particular statute that Covington has requested a waiver from is not specifically named.
Oh.
So the State Board has some flexibility in what it can grant, but at the end of the day cannot provide any flexibility to a local board such that compulsory attendance is below, those requirements.
They can't say migrant kiddos only
Don't
have to go
attend school.
150
Right.
days.
Right,
Exactly.
which is not what we see.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Dr.
question?
Pope.
So my line was yours there, Lou, is under the safety, they said we couldn't waive certain things in certain categories.
Right,
And-
yeah. Life safety.
Right, so.
Compulsory
in-
attendance, state level assessment and
Yeah. So is
accountability,
this
teacher
life
certification.
safety in relationship to not reporting it? I don't know. I mean, do we
Yeah.
have that authority? I'm with you on this one. I didn't think we
Yeah, I thought
had the
it was a
authority under
stretch.
safety. It's kind of like I can waive something the school safety marshal says, which we don't have the authority to do in
Correct.
relationship to something.
Correct.
I don't know that we had the authority to tell the court. I mean, this was set up, this wasn't something that school systems asked for. This was something that the court system put upon us.
Yeah.
To change from us filing laws in the upper court, I don't know the court system, but we were filing against adults and they said, no, you got to do it this way. And that became where we are now.
I hear you. I do think this one will cause ripple effects and perhaps some bad blood between school districts and the administrative offices of the courts in their areas until Covington has really thought this out and put together a good plan in partnership with the county attorney and the local judges. That would be my
I mean, I'm all for what they want to
hesitation.
do, but I
Yeah,
don't know
right.
that.
I
This
hear-
was the
I
one
hear your
that I
heart.
was, it was the safety issue that kept coming back to me. Because even though we want to protect a child, sometimes protecting the child puts them in a harmful situation.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can clarify ugly stories on that,
if
that
you
we don't
have-
know.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay, I'm just saying.
So are you working through the court designated worker now? Is that the way you all are doing it at your school system now?
Can you
That's
restate the question?
CDW. That's usually the first line of contact for
You're not
truancy.
putting these people into the penal system, is that correct?
We are required to report. So what happens after said report, we don't have
It's the
any
court's decision.
control
You don't
over.
make that decision.
Right.
So Is there a possibility, Todd, I guess what I'm thinking is that with the local, we're required to do it, and then, I go back to my days once again, we had a person that met with the courts. The courts decided what they wanted to do or whatever. The school pleaded its case one way or the other, and that family court judge decided whether she's going to hear the case, the person comes, or you take care of that particular issue. Is there that mechanism? There's that mechanism for them to develop that and get approval for their program through the courts as an alternative system to reporting that, or not, under the law?
I don't know that I know, what waiver or alternative mechanisms exist in the court system that is available to them. But to your point, Dr. Poe, I do think that it is certainly an option for the district to more fully develop its plan with the involvement of its local county attorney, and then further and future conversations about whether it's waiver, whether it's statutory amendment, where to go from there.
Thoughts or, Trace, please.
So there's essentially nothing the board can do to further guarantee, like safety for children and their families, because I think it's so disturbing that tiny children have to go out into the world and fear that they may not return home to their mother or father. That, it could be the last time they see them, or like they could leave their entire life behind. Like all their friends, that just lose them like that.
Sure. This, just to be clear, this is not immigration enforcement.
Right.
So this would be truancy, going through the same channels as your, kind of native Glasgow kids would go through if they miss X number of days, and then the reporting starts with the court system, and that follows. I think the point that Covington's make is that there are stressful and exigent circumstances for certain families who would fear immigration enforcement and cause them to be absent.
So truancy would lead to that?
No. I think maybe I misunderstand, but I think it is if you're worried that your child, there may be an immigration enforcement issue and you don't want your child at school to be either left because the parent has been removed, or that they too themselves might be removed, then the families might be reluctant to actually let their kids go to school.
Mm-hmm.
But this really is about truancy. This statute and regulations are about truancy.
But that ramification of truancy can lead to the other things.
Right.
And that's where the hard part with this one is.
Yes.
I believe in I don't like reporting a child when it's not their circumstances. I mean, we've had situations where home hospital individuals, and then people withdraw their kid to homeschool so that they don't get reported. And that's the whole thing that we have here. I just don't know that we have unless Todd tells us that, and his opinion on that,
We can
that we
waive
could
it.
waive.
We can waive it, but then, will the courts, how will the courts respond?
Yeah, I know,
think
the
is
office of the
unknown.
courts, that pushed this to begin with.
But with some more work, more partnerships, more detail, we might get closer to a yes.
Well, I would love to see a developed program that's a model program that's an alternative to what's been thrust upon us. So that we actually can not have a waiver process, but actually have an alternative process to promote to the legislature who threw this upon us to begin with. This is one of those that we didn't do it and we didn't enforce it. But it's hard then for them to say, we should be overturning their own waiver or their KRS when that KRS was not something we recommend.
Keep in mind, our directors of pupil personnel probably worked really closely in the development of this statute because they wanted the additional authority to address difficult truancy cases too. So, I think we're partners in crime there.
Well, I guess so, but it hasn't resulted in anything. The court system hasn't done anything on truancy, and they push it back to the school system to do something. So we just had to take an extra day to go over to the court to say, do something else with them. I mean, that's the bottom line here. I mean, that's That's what we've had. I mean, we had to develop a whole department to take these kids over, to be tossed back and say, you do something with them. And they suggested everything we did for them before they went there. Okay, that didn't work. So we've got to develop something. I mean, that's what you hear from superintendents right now.
Board members, I'm open to a motion to approve or deny a request for this waiver as described.
Todd, you said this is technically not required. I'm not sure I know where we stand, what the posture is legally.
So all of the waivers that are before you have undergone technical review. So you do have the authority to vote to waive this particular statute. The note that was in the staff note talked about how this really bumps up against compulsory attendance. The board can't waive compulsory attendance. This isn't exactly that. So from a purely legal perspective, the board has the ability to grant a waiver if it chooses to do so. Whether or not it chooses to do so is completely within your discretion.
Chair Young, may I ask a question?
Sir?
A clarifying question,
Please.
since we're trying to build this plane as we're flying it. I think going back again, I feel like this is an area where if the waiver and the flexibility was awarded to us, then that, for me, that opens up the opportunity to go back and work with our county attorney to come up with, okay, we have this flexibility now. We can design something. And then I think we would be very open to then bring back whatever the implementation plan is going to be to this board for additional review. Again, I think we're just kind of going back on the order of operations.
Right.
Of some of
I
these
would
things.
want to stipulate that too, but I would just really encourage you to flip that cart and horse, because I can't imagine that your district attorney wouldn't want to have that conversation and go into it as partners instead of saying, hey, we got a waiver from your requirements. I'm sorry, we have a question from Mr. Trimble.
Okay, now there's the law that you have to report it, but can't they work with the county attorney and those people to do what they do after they report it, or how they're going to handle it?
I think that's what we're suggesting would be a more prudent approach.
I mean, my question is if we approve this as is and then ask Covington Board to come back and report what they're doing, approve it for each year to see whether or not, basically, they would be our pilot to see whether whatever they developed is effective or not effective based on the county attorney and everybody else in their particular district. And report back to us on a yearly basis that did they decrease chronic absenteeism based on what they're doing. But it would send a message to the county attorney that we are saying work with the school district to come up with an alternative plan, to be a pilot for us, that we could suggest to others instead of saying no and then force the county, and then if they did do it, we come back and approve it later, then I think I can understand their point, I guess.
So I hear two potential motions, one to deny the waiver request in its entirety, another potentially, Dr. Poe, if this is capturing it, would be to approve the request but require the district to report back at a date certain.
Each year on the decrease in chronic, I mean, basically, they have a baseline right now of chronic absenteeism. And in a year, they report back, just like we do when we take over a district with finances or whatever, we say, come back and report to us your progress. So we're granting them a pilot to go work with the county attorney system to develop something unique. And we're measuring the success each particular year. And if it's not successful, obviously, they're not going to continue to do it, I would hope. And if it is successful, then we have a pilot and we have the data, just like any other actionable market research that we do on any dissertation out there. I think it's a great project to assign one of their individuals to do a dissertation work on. They got pure raw data over 3 years to do the data and say whether this was effective or not. Just my thought. I would make that as a recommendation, so it'd have to be a second.
So we have a motion from Dr. Poe to approve the request, approve the waiver request, but require the district to report back annually on the impact of the waiver on truancy and absenteeism.
And as a pilot, a waiver as a pilot for 3 years. We're not granting it forever. It's part of showing over 3 years that they're successful.
And just for clarification, any of the waivers that you grant are for 3 years only. Any of the action that you take to grant a waiver here today is for
Okay,
3 years only.
3 years only, okay.
And I'd also like to add a clarification. One of the things that the new accountability model has chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism and truancy are two different things.
Two different things. I think it's really important
So again,
to
if
note
a
that.
student is absent for more than 10%, they're still chronically absent. Whether or not you report them for truancy is a different mechanism. So I just want to make that clarification. So chronic absenteeism and truancy are not the same thing. These students would still be counted for for chronic absenteeism. Whether or not how you report them to truancy is a different mechanism.
Yeah, so with saying that, the goal would be, or I'm just trying to think through this, I'm not trying to think for that. We have to reduce chronic absenteeism, correct?
Yes.
So we probably should be providing then waivers for districts to say, how can I do this better than what we're doing now? Or they got to measure, it's going to be part of their, heck, it's not even really coming back to us. This is part of the accountability going forward. It's either going to be there or not be there.
Yeah.
So we have a motion from Dr. Poe to approve the request but require district reporting annually. Is there a second?
I'll second it just to bring it to a vote. Anything that keeps kids out of the court system, families out of the court system, is a win, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney.
So I will bring that so that it can come to a vote.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, I vote no.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney votes yes.
Patty Mentor,
Patty Mentor votes no.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, yes.
Randy Poe,
Yes, Randy Poe, yes.
Sharon Porter Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, yes.
Steve Trimble,
Steve Trimble, I vote yes, and I agree, discuss my vote is as long as it's a pilot program and that we can look at it each year, see how it's going. But I would do vote yes.
and Lou Young.
Lou Young, I vote no. Motion carries, I believe.
5, 2, 3. 5 yeses, 3 noes.
Motion carries.
Motion doesn't carry if you don't
Oh.
have a majority of board members.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry. I was just thinking 5-3. Yeah, we didn't.
You need
reach
6 to
of the
pass
majority.
a-
You have to have 6. So the
The
motion
motion-
does not carry.
Fails.
Okay.
You have to have a majority of the 11, which would be 6, and we have 5 yeses and 3 nos.
Okay, that's part of this innovation thing, or?
That's part of any
No,
vote that
that's-
the board takes.
That's our board policy. All right. Next item on our agenda,
Well,
closing in.
so
Oh, yeah,
Since that failed, you now need another motion to resolve this.
Yeah, you just,
resolve.
mine
This
just
waiver.
failed, you gotta then deny.
Oh, that's right. So we don't have an approved motion one way or the other. Do I have a motion to deny the waiver?
I'll make the motion. And I really do agree with the idea of it. I just feel like, I don't really feel like we can do this exactly. I just feel like it's, like not requiring them to report any truancy to the court system and just kind of, I just feel like working with the court system without us saying they have to feels much more collaborative. And I feel like they would I love the idea of having some innovation around this topic, but I feel like we can't make the court do that. and that's what we're trying to do with this vote. And that just doesn't make sense to me.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion to deny the request from Ms. Bloodworth. Do we have a second? I'll second the motion. I don't know if it's going to change the outcome or not. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, yes.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney votes no.
Patty Mentor,
Patty Mentor votes yes.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, no.
Randy Poe,
Randy Poe, no.
Sharon Porter Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, no.
Steve Trimble,
Oh, you're still muted, Steve.
Sorry. So
I read
sorry.
your lips,
Steve
though.
Steve Trimble, I vote no.
pardon?
He votes no.
No, thank you. And Lou Young.
Lou Young, I vote yes. So this motion also did not carry, and I don't have a copy of Robert's rules in front of me.
So if the board fails to take action, then you as chair can determine to move on to the next item without any action taken on this matter.
And it doesn't preclude them from bringing back a waiver request. That's true of any of these, of
Correct.
course. So, all right. In that spirit, then we will move on to specific waiver request Form 7. This is a waiver request for KRS 161.0201A. I'm on the right one.
Yes.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to Mr. Allen.
161.0201A provides that no person is eligible to hold the position of teacher or other public school position for which certificates are issued by the EPSB unless he or she holds a certificate for the position. The school district requests a waiver of this statutory provision for all of the schools previously mentioned and seeks that all of these schools be designated School of Innovation status. Since this statute is implemented by the Education Professional Standards Board, KRS 156.161 required that the EPSB review the district's waiver request and provide consultation to this board. The EPSB met on August 18th, 2026 to review the specific waiver request form submitted by the district. At that time, the EPSB voted to recommend that the KBE deny the request. Noted concerns that CTE courses not being taught by certified teachers are ineligible for funding under the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act, as well as not being reported in the Technical Education Database Systems, TEDS, for tracking of attend hours, concentrator status, industry certification, and similar. Substantive review also noted that teachers not required to obtain a certificate will not undergo a character and fitness review by the EPSB and will not be subject to the Professional Code of Ethics for Kentucky certified school personnel. Numerous certification options exist to address the district's teaching staffing needs. Under 16 KR 2:020, the EPSB may issue occupation-based certificates for any career and technical area. Furthermore, there are non-alternative certification routes for teacher and administrator certification for individuals demonstrating exceptional work or educational experiences. And finally, emergency certification options exist. The EPSB desires to support and be collaborative with Kentucky's public school districts and, to that end, routinely considers requests to waive its own administrative regulations. Finally, the substantive review noted that it is unlikely the schools and programs identified in the waiver request will realize meaningful operational efficiency improvements, and it is unlikely that the students enrolled in the schools and programs identified in the waiver request will realize improved academic achievement.
Thank you, Todd. We also in the portal, you have a letter from Board Chair Amber Snell with the Education Professional Standards Board, where they recommended the denial and the reasons. I was able to watch the video of their meeting. They pointed out, you guys have probably already seen this, they pointed out that there are at least three remedies already available to Covington Independent around the opportunity for non-certified teachers to teach in Kentucky public schools. And I think that was all I wanted to share. So anything else you guys want to add about the certification question, especially after having heard EPSB's take on the fact that they offer waivers? They also have the CTE career-based employment opportunities, and then 9 other optional certification routes, and emergency certification
Sure.
would be at your disposal currently.
All I would add is, first and foremost, we do want highly effective individuals in front of all of our children. That goes without saying, I hope. But I will say that the avenues that I've explored seem to prohibit some individuals from taking advantage of those opportunities, for, in some cases, the required testing, the expense of taking additional coursework. It's not necessarily equitable in how those folks that are a part of an industry that our children might be interested in pursuing post-graduation would identify certification through the options that currently exist.
Okay. And are there specific individuals that you are working with right now that might need this affordance?
Not specific individuals. Okay. We are building out pathway options in academies in our high school based on student interest as well as the demand in the career. And what we have found early is that we aren't sure that we're going to be able to offer all of those academy options. It'll be dependent upon the workforce and their willingness to operate within one of those avenues you just described.
Okay.
And willingness and ability.
Thank you. Like Mr. Allen, I worry about the lack of the character and fitness review for anyone who's in front of our students. And I also really worried about the impact on your Perkins funds if you do bring in a CTE person that is not certified and can't be certified, then you would not be able to access those funds. So yes, Trace.
Can you elaborate on the character thing?
Yeah, so in Kentucky, Dr. Brewer's here, the Associate Commissioner for the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness. In Kentucky, in order to go through the full process of teacher certification, there is a character and fitness assessment. Often it happens at the university level where the teacher was prepared, but it also happens alternatively in the other routes. Here's just kind of putting it in the simplest of terms. The way we ensure teachers cannot stay in the profession when they have poor character is that we take their certification away. So that's the kind of the big hammer, the big penalty is that they lose teacher certification, which is dramatic and can be for a lifetime, not always. But to have non-certificated educators in the classroom without that certification, then the link between the Education Professional Standards Board and the government and their character and fitness as an educator is broken.
But the district could essentially write in the same expectations in a contract. Yes?
Yes, and except then pass the trash could happen and they go next door, or
Not if that district doesn't have a waiver.
They wouldn't have the waiver, that's true. Dr. Brewer, I don't think I did a good job explaining that.
You did a great job. So the character and fitness is part of the application for certification. So it asks a series of questions that the board has identified as preliminary to the review and issuance of a certificate. It is not a background check, which is done at each individual school district upon hire. But it does specify the expectations that they answer honestly and completely, and that they would be subject to the code of ethics, and that there would be action taken upon their certificate if they did not answer truthfully.
So,
but obligates them to the state.
Right. So with that test, if they were to do something that's, let's say, very frowned upon, then their certification would be taken away and they couldn't teach.
They would be subject to
and an
loss of
important
their
distinction, so your certificate and your sort of professional credential is issued by the Education Professional Standards Board, and that's distinct from your employment. Mm-hmm. And so you could have an incident occur in a school district and they take appropriate action through their human resource department, let them go. But then there is a separate action that can be pursued by the Professional Standards Board that would have some standing on that person's certificate and their ability to be hired anymore in the state of Kentucky, whereas personnel action wouldn't preclude someone from going to a different district. So it's really important that the Professional Standards Board oversees the profession in its entirety, not at the individual district level.
Right. So it just depends on like the severity of something, whether a license would be revoked.
Correct.
Okay.
So the board has cases that the legal team reviews and they bring forward for their review, and then there's different actions that can occur dependent upon the case itself.
Dr. Brewer, we used to have something called Instructor 3, and now I'm really dating myself, but it was for a person who would be the educator of record who did not hold a Kentucky teaching license. But we haven't had that for a long time now, right?
So CTE right now is exploring what it would look like to have a teacher
okay.
of record,
Okay.
but also have someone who has sort of exceptional professional experience that could kind of co-teach in some capacity and still satisfy the requirements to have a certified educator on site. And I do think that there are situations where that is even occurring now, but they're trying to increase that flexibility. I think it is really important to note that the issuance of emergency certificates is pretty straightforward and almost always, a smooth process for districts. And Covington's waiver request did include that they would require a bachelor's degree for any candidates that would be pursuing that credential, and that would be the minimum requirement for an emergency certificate.
But we no longer can issue emergency certification for special education.
Correct, and that would not be something the board could waive because that's a federal.
And there's a 1-year limit or a 2-year limit on
There's
emergency
2
certification?
years that you automatically, and then almost all waiver requests for a third issuance of an emergency certificate have been granted by the board.
And the notion is that the educator would be working toward licensure.
Correct.
So that gives you some sense of what that landscape is.
So can I ask Meredith a
Oh,
question?
yep,
before
bring
she
her right
leaves?
back. Pivot?
So if, and that's in the traditional, in the, for example, ATC Center, if I'm hiring an industry person coming out, they go through the same process that you just said, or how does that work presently?
So occupation-based does have sort of a different pathway, and they don't currently have an emergency certificate option, but they are able to waive the certain provisions that they have outlined in the regulation for occupation-based certificates. So there's a recency requirement, there's a minimum number of years of professional experience, and the board does entertain waivers quite regularly where they are petitioning.
So
to
if I
have-
was a tradesperson, I'm thinking like in Northern Kentucky, they have the Northern Kentucky Trades Organization that's promoting a particular curriculum, 6 through 9. There's really no certification out there to teach that. It's so they would apply, if whether it's Covington or anybody, they would apply. The superintendent would apply to have that person certified under emergency certified under the trades, but then they would have to be working towards their certificate in X number of years to continue teaching that?
Well, so, and I apologize for the confusion. So occupation-based certificates sort of have a separate set of requirements. And so they don't require the bachelor's degree necessarily within those particular areas. So if the person did not have the minimum requirement, so that years of professional experience within a certain number of years, of time and all of those things, then they can work with Beth Hargis's team to get a waiver submitted to still say, this person has exceptional professional experience in this particular trade. We would like to recommend that you approve this waiver, and then they can be issued that occupation-based certificate.
And then there's a new teacher institute that they, statewide, that they all participate in.
Correct. And so that is, there is currently an expectation for that to work toward an associate's degree. But they have a really robust program for occupation-based teachers called the New Teacher Institute, as Chair Young
So
said.
that you don't do the stupid stuff that we.
Well, and pedagogy and some of the elements that they may not have from their professional.
I understand the safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
And then, this may be a Beth question, but are those teachers in the classroom eligible for Perkins?
Perkins is, yes, she's saying yes.
Yes, okay, all right, good. So that's a legitimate workaround, okay.
And I will just say again, our staff, we field more calls than any other office, and that is because we realize that certification is complicated, and so we really want to provide outstanding customer service. So if any district who's listening, and certainly want to say that to Covington, happy to call for each specific case and figure out a pathway to get a full certificate issued. That's our goal, is to make sure that we have credentialed teachers in every classroom.
And I noticed, Beth, if you want to comment, I noticed that cybersecurity was on the narrative from Covington, and I know that Fayette has a robust cybersecurity program at the Hill, and have just brought a teacher who was a cybersecurity certified teacher in Jefferson to Fayette. So I know that that's on your all's radar in terms of what industry certifications might we be looking for in Kentucky.
Yes, ma'am. And I think Dr. Graves was on her way back down there, and so she can speak to this as well. But one of the things that we've recently done is we revised one of the regulations to try to simplify the process for hiring our occupation-based instructors. And so for the areas that require a master's license, the plumbing, electricity, those individuals are not required to get additional education requirements. And so they can get brought on. But the tests that were suggested, and those tests, if you bring someone on that does not have the appropriate industry certification, and some of those areas do not have a license to practice per se. And so what we do is we require the NOCTI exam, which is proof of their technical expertise. And so those are the exams that are required. And again, that's just to ensure that the teachers that we're bringing into the classrooms actually have the experience and skill set necessary. And again, that's corroborated along with their years of experience that they have with business and industry and the recency requirements.
When
Thank
did
you,
you say
Beth.
that change was made? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
I was asking when that change was made.
Oh, yeah, when was the change that the journeymen don't have to have associate's degrees anymore? That's new.
It is, and in fact, and again, if Dr. Graves is in there, she may want to speak to this. I believe it actually went into place
in April.
What, this
April?
summer?
There you go.
In
Or
April.
back in
This year.
back in the spring?
Thank you.
She made it. She's at the table, Beth. Yeah, so anything you want to add to, especially for Covington's benefit?
Sure. So I missed a little bit of that, but I will just say, so to clarify a little bit with what the requirements are, it's 4 years of teaching, 4 years of occupational experience, 2 within the last 5 years. We do waivers occasionally. I shouldn't say we, EPSB does waivers occasionally for that. In addition, we are looking at 2020 right now, 16 KAR 2020. And what we're looking at with that is adding back in emergency certification with that. Also looking at, if you're teaching at a college level, what that could look like, what the requirements are, allowing a little bit more flexibility for those that are in industry to be able to really just seamlessly jump right in, making sure that they're still all getting the NTI, the New Teacher Institute, which is that 2-year program.
Yes.
And so really looking at what options we have out there for occupation-based. So we are happy to answer any specific questions, especially if you have one that's, a particular situation where you're going, how does this fit? We've got documentation online that can assist with that as well.
I appreciate the clarification. I think what you're describing is what we discussed as a task force, in that
Nice.
there are hurdles that currently exist that you all are identifying and seeking pathways to overcome. It was my understanding that this process was also one of those vehicles to overcome some of those same obstacles.
Thank you. And I mean, in the good news is that if anytime you have specific candidates, then we put them back through the system and make sure they get the support they need to make sure that they're able to be in the classrooms with Perkins funding and all of the powers vested in them as educators in Kentucky. So, all right, board members, other questions? We do not have a motion on the table yet. Oh, and we do have a couple out for bio breaks, so. But we can take questions in the meantime. Or we can take a 5-minute break. Go, Randy, go.
Well, I'll just ask you, from what you hear, is there any particular case that you may think of that we didn't discuss that you might need clarification on?
I wouldn't say that I need additional clarification. I think I heard the same conversation we
You
were
have
having.
your HR person on dial to Meredith and the other
Right.
person is what it
Yes.
is. Yeah. That's kind of what I heard is that EPSB on these types of waivers that they put in for a request, you pretty much have granted those types in other districts already,
So,
based on what you all said.
as far as the occupation-based, when Dr. Hargis's team has
Yeah.
reviewed, they provide commentary with the staff note as to the situation and sort of help the board be informed about that situation specifically. But the board does seek flexibility, and they understand that
And-
staffing is a
Can you
challenge.
also provide the flexibility that you all just did in the area of science for those that's new, may not understand that, so that might be listening in, that, you don't need to, because my understanding is if I have a science
bands.
degree
Right.
in a certain area, I can now teach maybe chemistry or physics, which I could not do before, to provide that flexibility.
Correct. So the board is pursuing that flexibility right now. So specific to more traditional certifications, yes, there really are a lot of different options and a lot of flexibility that can be pursued currently. And that's really our job to make sure that all of those avenues are explored. As far as, you can add additional credentials through a variety of methods. Being, deemed highly qualified allows you to sort of teach above or below certain grade bands. And so that's something that we can help with. As far as occupation-based, I will defer to Dr. Graves, but adding additional areas outside of your professional capacity would be something that CTE would need to provide.
Well, I think we
input on.
covered that occupational was, I think when I was looking at it, almost everybody needed a chemistry teacher or a
Correct.
physics teacher in Northern Kentucky last year, and they're all emergency certified. But under the new thing, if I could look at my staff and actually have somebody better to be teaching chemistry
Correct.
or physics than getting the emergency certified person and put them in another area.
Correct. So the board is pursuing, EPSB is pursuing amendments to their regulation to allow existing science teachers to have a review of their transcript from their
Okay.
collegiate coursework to determine if they could add additional concentrations outside of, if they had a
Yeah.
biology student they
So
could add on.
when do you think that's coming to your board for that approval? I thought that was already done, so.
Well, so the recommendation that came from the work group was already approved, and so it does require some amendments to regulations.
But it's going to be approved, your feeling is that
Right.
from the work group, because I think that's what your board chair reported
Yes.
to us, so that's
That's
why
right.
I'm thinking that it was
Yes,
done.
and so they just need to work through the
Through the
9-month regulatory
process.
process. Yes,
Okay.
they are very supportive of that.
So all those questions or in those critical science areas are covered.
That's right.
OP or the trades are covered too, we just heard. So that's why I was asking if there was something else that they were thinking of that we didn't cover here.
I guess sort
Pretty
of
much so.
my parting comment would be if you reach a point of frustration where you feel like you have no path forward, please reach out to our office because we want to be as creative as we can to ensure that districts are supported and are able to staff highly qualified individuals. But ultimately, the board wants those individuals to be certified.
And I'll put out there, it's become much more flexible with you being the whatever your title is of that than it has been in the past. I want to thank you
Oh,
for that.
well, I appreciate that. It really wasn't me, but I appreciate that.
I know, but I'm putting it out there for
And just keep in mind, board members, when the EPSB considers a waiver, they consider the waiver for individual people. So that gives me the confidence moving forward that when you guys are ready to say, hey, we need help getting this person in front of kids, she's going to be fabulous, then they will handle that with the waiver through the education professional
And
standards.
EPSB does meet every 3 weeks, and so timeline constraints are less burdensome. So they would be able to entertain waivers.
I'm sorry.
No,
this is-
please.
You shouldn't have brought that last part up. So that's the key question that I guess was brought up about a district last year on the technical aspect that they couldn't hire the person until you all worked. Is there a process that they can hire the person and have that person in the classroom until you work on the approval or denial of that request? That's what happened last year. That was something a superintendent called me on, I remember. They had to wait for 3 weeks from the beginning of the school year until they could put that person in there. So they paid them as another type of staff member with a teacher of record in there to do whatever.
Yes, so they could emergency certify them, they could have them be a substitute. They wouldn't be able to have the full certificate until the waiver was
Yeah,
reviewed.
that's
But we
what it
try to
was.
review it as quickly as possible.
All right.
Yes.
Based on this discussion, I believe that I am open to a motion to deny this waiver request. Do I have such a motion?
I'll motion.
I have a motion from Ms. Pyle. Do we have a second?
Second.
Dr. Minter, any further discussion around waiving teacher certification requirements under 161.0201A? Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, I vote yes.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney votes yes.
Patty Minter,
Patty Minter, yes.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, yes.
Randy Poe,
I vote yes with an explanation that it's because of the lengthy discussion we just had.
Sharon Porter Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, yes.
Steve Trimble,
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.
Lou Young.
Lou Young, yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now, given that we have approved at least one waiver on behalf of Covington Independent, at this time, the Kentucky Board of Education will consider whether it will designate one or more schools or programs as schools of innovation in the Covington Independent School District. The standard for reviewing and granting requests for identification as a school of innovation is provided in KRS 156.161, and here's that standard statement. The State Board shall approve the request to be identified as a school of innovation if the request demonstrates that all the approved waivers attempt to improve student outcomes in a manner that would be difficult or impossible without the approved waivers. Just as a reminder, the schools in Covington include, there are 8 schools. Glen O. Swing Elementary, John G. Carlisle Elementary, Latonia Elementary, 9th District Elementary, 6th District Elementary, James E. Biggs Early Childhood Center, Holmes Middle, and Holmes High, and as well as any other school or education program operated and/or funded by the district. That is the proposal from, in the designation request from Covington Independent. I don't think we have a document to that effect, though, right? Just in each of the waivers had specified all of the schools. So at this point, we are going to consider the designation as School of Innovation for all or some of those schools on the list. Julie?
I'd like to ask a question, because you have basically listed all of the schools. And so that is a lot to bite off at once. Are you looking more at piloting at certain schools, or what's the plan?
So we are building a coherent K-12 model. So that is the intent behind a district of innovation. We recognize that we have some specific challenges in specific grade areas, particularly middle school, as I described. So if we were to begin prioritizing implementation, it would certainly be in a spot like that. However, over the next 3 years, we absolutely intend to touch K through 12. That does not mean that each grade band or each school will have the exact same initiative, but I mentioned to you at the top the data around ELA, math, we have writing that we will need to focus on again, particularly at middle school. So that is likely where our emphasis will begin. But again, this is a K-12 approach.
And Ms. Pyle, I would add that it's my understanding for us to be able to obviously access the public investment that's been made, and for us to be able to use that, we will only be able to use that at schools that have been designated as schools of innovation.
So I'll make the recommendation that we designate all those schools listed, because Todd told me we can't do it like we used to, which is a district of innovation, so we got to do it individually. So I feel all their programs that they operate underneath the Kentucky Board of Education, those schools all listed, and their subsidiaries are deemed innovation.
Excellent. So I think that's in the form of a motion, right, Dr. Poe?
Yes.
We have a motion to approve designation of all of the schools I just named, and including any other school or education program operated?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a motion from Dr. Poe. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Ms. Pyle. Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Pyle.
Okay, so I do have some additional questions since we're at more the district innovation level. Because this is a huge initiative for our state, and the legislators are investing $2.5 million with a potential of $5 more million with 2 more schools. We have to get this right on this one.
Absolutely.
So my question is, can we ask for financial reporting, spending of funds, and a report every 6 months from the district so we can monitor how this is progressing?
Yes, you just need to amend your motion accordingly to include that as a requirement.
I would like to amend the motion to require financial reporting, spending of funds, and operational report every 6 months, a presentation. I really appreciate you guys coming down. I think it's important for us to do this work face-to-face.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Poe, you have a motion seconded by Ms. Pyle, offering a friendly amendment to your motion to include this reporting requirement. Do you accept that motion? I mean, that amendment? Yes. Okay. So, did we get that one, Corey?
Yes, I believe so, just underneath the original.
All right, Julie, I think that's a really prudent idea.
So to restate, as we understand the motion with the friendly amendment, it's a motion to approve each school within the district as a school of innovation with the requirement that the district provide regular financial reporting to the board. Financial and operational reporting to the Kentucky Board of Education.
And we already know that student outcomes are going to be part of the regular expectation as well, so I don't know if that needs to be specifically, yeah. So specifically including student outcomes as well. And we've talked about some specific ways that can unfold also. All right, so I think we have an amended motion to approve each school within the district as a school of innovation with the requirement that the district provide regular financial reporting to the board, financial, operational, and student outcome reporting to the board. Regular is?
Regular is fine.
Okay, good.
Whatever time period.
Let's leave it at regular and then negotiate that with the school district to make that fit into the rhythm of the regular reporting. We don't want to add reporting if it's already there. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Jones, please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth,
Holly Bloodworth, I vote yes.
Harold McKinney,
Harold McKinney votes yes.
Patty Mentor,
Patty Mentor votes yes.
Julie Pyle,
Julie Pyle, yes.
Randy Poe,
Randy Poe, yes.
Sharon Porter Robinson,
Sharon Robinson, yes.
Steve Trimble,
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.
Lou Young.
Lou Young, I vote yes, and we have schools of innovation.
Wow.
Bravo,
you so
congratulations. At the claps from virtual folks as well. At this time, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have such a motion? Mr. Trimble?
Steve Trimble, make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Go ahead, Harold.
Given her interest in getting books into the hands of children and realizing that she's an American icon, is it appropriate to adjourn in memory of Dolly
Dolly
Parton?
Parton. I think
Yes,
that is
absolutely.
lovely.
Dolly Parton died.
Yeah, just before
Yeah,
the meeting.
during the meeting,
Trace,
yeah,
where you
yeah.
been?
Right before the meeting.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, just respond by saying aye. We don't. I saw all three of them. They said aye. All right, thank you very much. Congratulations.